Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of Around the Leagues with Brady B. I'm your host, Brady Bauer. It is March 12th, and we have a lot to talk about. We have NFL news, we have absurd players in the NBA dropping insane amounts of points, and we're going to dive into all of that here today. I know the past few weeks it feels like all I've talked about has been the NFL and the free agency that has been seeming like it's been taking forever to come since the Super Bowl ended, but we got past the combine and we are finally in NFL free agency. NFL free agency always has stuff going on. You saw last week, even before it actually opens, there's already trades being made, salary cap being dumped to make room for these players that are on the open market. And it's so weird. The NBA, you can't tamper at all, but the NFL opens a tampering period Saturday before the free agency starts. Free agency starts on Monday, so on that Saturday, agents could begin talking with the teams, but the players can't acknowledge it in a way. So basically, you have a bunch of teams that are talking to players, getting these players done through back channels under the table. Teams are always trying to make moves during this period, because if you don't do it during this time and you want to play the moral route, you're going to miss out on some of the players that you need. And the free agency started quick, So the Bears started off by trading for Garrett Bradbury. Garrett Bradbury is a center, and he spent his previous years of his career with the Patriots. I mean, I love this. They didn't waste any time making a move for a position that they needed, and one of those positions was center. And they struck gold. Not gold. They definitely didn't strike gold, but they definitely made a quick decision on who they wanted. And him and Joe Thuney have some history together because they used to play college football together and they're roommates. So we're going to have him in the middle, and then we'll obviously still have Jonah Jackson at right guard. And then at left guard, we have Joe Thuney, one of the best players in the NFL. So that combo of interior linemen mixed with this new center that we just acquired makes me feel more optimistic about the future of our offensive line than I did a couple weeks ago when Drew Dalman retired. Drew Dalman retiring was a huge hit for us because it was the first time in forever that it felt like the Chicago Bears had a true center on the field. Another guy that could read protection, shift plays, and like blocking assignments. But with him leaving, now I'm a little nervous that what if this man Bradbury does not have those same skills as Drew Dalman did in reading like defenses and like shifts and stuff like that. So I like that they addressed it easy, but I just hope Bradbury could feel more comfortable and get, better acquainted with the guys that he's playing around. Another huge free agency news that happened was, you know what? I'm going to touch on the small stuff later, but first I'm going to start with the big dogs of free agency. We had Max Crosby get traded. And yeah, you might be saying, no, he didn't because he's on the Raiders, because technically you are correct. After the trade was announced, 2 days after, it was rescinded because he did not pass a physical. And this is where all the conspiracy theorists in the NFL, you don't even have to be a conspiracy theorist for this one because there's just so many dots connecting that make it very suspicious. So they traded for Max Crosby, the Ravens did, giving up 2 first-round picks, which is very important in the NFL because that's just 2 years of first-round talent that you're not going to be able to have. So they traded that, and then when Max Crosby came to do his physical in order to pass it and get the trade to go through and be processed, the physical turned out negative. It's not a crazy shock because he tore something in his leg like during the last month or two of the season, and he wanted to come, and he just got off crutches like 2 weeks ago. So he still is recovering. So I think the trade was a little too early. I mean, the Ravens don't know that, but at the same time, that's what everybody is questioning right now. People believe that the Ravens pulled out of the contract, had their doctors discover something in the physical, so then they could back out on him and then go a different route, which ended up being Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson is a name that so many people have wanted on their team for the past 2 years. He's had contract disputes with the Bengals, and it's been pretty much clear as day that he will not be with the Bengals much longer, and that is what happened. There's other teams that were in the running. I saw the Buccaneers, the Bills, I think the Commanders as well, that were in the running for Trey Hendrickson, but ultimately he signed with the Ravens. It was a quick turnaround from the Max Crosby physical being failed to Trey Hendrickson signing. So people are questioning maybe if they've had this plan the whole time and it was negotiated with Trey Hendrickson during that tampering period. But that's what's weird about this. There's not much people can do and get outraged about because there's nothing like hiding that there's tampering. They literally call it tampering, like okay tampering period. So the NFL is not, I feel like they should investigate it, but they can't really do anything because they literally have this period started. So Max Crosby goes back to the Raiders after he released a 13-minute video thanking the fans, the owner, the city of Las Vegas for everything that they've done to him and how they've embraced him since he's been on the team. But now I saw someone say now he's going to have to make another goodbye video to Baltimore, or a goodbye video saying goodbye to the one that he just made to the Raiders, because that's just so awkward. This team openly wanted you gone. Not because he's a bad player, just it's still awkward being traded from anywhere. Even if I work at Dick's Sporting Goods. If I was traded to Sports Authority back in the day, I would feel some type of way, and I'm sure that's how Max Crosby feels. Now he has to go back into that building with the coaches and continue trying to build from the ground up with them. I just think Crosby deserves better, because now the Raiders are saying that they're not going to trade him. So there's a whole lot of things going on, and this affected everyone else because people were waiting to spend their money hoping that they could get Hendrickson, but now that he's off the table, now they got to resort to third and fourth options in the free agent market. So Max Crosby was a Baltimore Raven for about 2 hours. And during this 2 hours, in the new era of social media, people say they're going to do things if they want a sports event to happen. For instance, this one guy that I saw on Twitter said, if Max Crosby is traded to the Ravens, I'm going to shave my head bald. And then he shaved his head bald not even 6 hours after the news. So now he is walking around with a bald head, and he does not look that good bald. So I don't know what he's gonna do with his hair, especially now that Max Crosby is not on the team. So he might actually have to take Max Crosby to civil court for this, because you can't mess with a man's hair, especially if you say you're gonna do something. So there might be a whole case going on against Max Crosby, the Raiders, and the NFL in order for this fan to get his hair back, because that's just not good practice, man. They straight up lied to the man. He probably was like, yes, I'm gonna have someone cash this reward in the opposite way. But no, he's sitting there, bald head, probably got cold as hell right now with the wind hitting his head. And yeah, he's just done. Another trade that we saw, which I was just about to talk on before Max Crosby, should have been the main attention, so I apologize for not putting him first. But Max Crosby is gone from the Raiders. Or now he's back with the Raiders. Scratch that. Go back and edit that out. So moving on to Tua. Tua, the left-handed quarterback, Tua himself. If you know Tua, he probably shouldn't be in the NFL anymore. It's a combination of injuries and just talent, but Tua has been very inconsistent, especially with the cast that he's had around him. When you have Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, granted that they have had their share of injuries, but despite that, you should be able to just throw to these guys and let them do the rest of the work. Tyreek Hill is one of the most dynamic football players we've ever seen in the NFL, and Tua Tagovailoa just never took advantage of that. The one times he did, it would be like the one when there was a scrum, there was a fumble, and then Tyreek ran out the back of it. Or early on, he was throwing moon balls to Tyreek, and Tyreek Hill even went as far as saying that Tua is a better quarterback than Pat Mahomes, which is wild looking back on it now, because we all know Tua is nowhere even close to Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes could literally start throwing at lefty like Tua is and probably be better than Tua. But Tua is no longer with the Dolphins as they go into their rebuild. And it's a smart rebuild for them. They've gotten rid of everybody. Tyreek Hill's gone. Bradley Chubb's gone. Darren Waller's probably going to be gone. I can't even name anybody on their offensive line, to be honest with you. And their defense has just been getting worse and worse over the years. But this is so you see how the NBA draft class is stacked this year? That's the same way for the NFL next year. Next year is going to be full of quarterbacks. So Miami could afford to tank. I don't even know who their starter is right now. They got Quinn Ewers on the roster and Zach Wilson. And as far from besides those two, I don't really think they have another option back there. So it's going to be a tanking season for the Dolphins. Last year, people wrote them on as the most depressing team before the season started. They kind of wrote the ship a little bit and started doing a little better, but now they're just back to like where they started, just bad vibe. Oh, wait, the Dolphins signed the Malik Willis. That was going to be my next quote. So Malik Willis is now a member of the Dolphins. It's going to be interesting to see how this works because he was good with the Packers in the time that he did, but he was bad with the Titans in the more opportunities he had. But then he did dirty when they brought in Will Levis, and then he hit the free agent market and was signed by the Packers and kind of showed that he could learn quick on the fly under Matt LaFleur's offense. So he's just been good, consistent backup since then. But now he has the opportunity to go to his own starting spot in Miami with his former GM, new coaches, and he hopes to become the starter there for at least the next couple seasons, or maybe they will bridge again and have a quarterback come in the draft to take his spot. But regardless of the point, the Dolphins are still the Dolphins still have a short quarterback. And what's funny is Tua is signing with the Falcons now. The Falcons have Tua, Michael Penix, both lefties. The center is a lefty. The only time a center has ever been lefty with a lefty quarterback. And then Drake London's lefty too. So they're just lefty central over there. Maybe they're just going to try to throw, I don't even know what their plan's going to be, run everything on the left side of the field and just confuse the defense. But they have a lot of lefties on their team. And yeah. And then the next thing we got is the Chiefs are signing the former Super Bowl MVP, Kenneth Walker. This was a great signing for the Chiefs because they're going to be without Patrick Mahomes for who knows how long at the start of the season. Travis Kelce's old. Their wide receiver room is depleted. They have Rashee Rice, who's constantly getting arrested. And then they got Tyquan Thornton's coming back, who's a good deep ball threat. So now they got Kenneth Walker, who I guess if teams go zone, because that's what you're probably gonna want to play against Mahomes. Teams go zone, and then they could just run it right down your throat. So I like the Kenneth Walker signing. I like that the Chiefs have a bell cow that they could rely on in these situations. Pacheco was fine. He was okay. His rookie year, he was really good. And then he kind of just like flatlined after that. I think he just hit a sophomore slump. And then they also have, I think Kareem Hunt's still on the roster as well, which is a solid backup for any team. He's a guy that you could put it at the goal line, get you in the end zone, or he could even pick up those tough first down yardage when he's in his own field position as well. So I like that signing from the Chiefs. They just have to work on the defense a little more, and I think they should re-up and be better than last year. Another signing that we have, or another trade that we have, is the Steelers are trading for Michael Pittman Jr. I'm not the biggest fan of Michael Pittman Jr. I think he's extremely overrated, and that's even going back to his college days when he would play against Notre Dame. I think he's an overrated player. I think the Colts made a good decision letting him go because they would have had a lot of mouths to feed if they kept him on the offense, especially after they just gave Alec Pierce a $22 million deal. So their money would be getting tight on the offensive side of the ball, and Michael Pittman was already signed under contract. So they were going to have to make a move, probably cut him, or even, cut him would have been the only other option. But they elected to trade him, which is probably the better move for him. Not a better move for him, but the teams in the NFL wanted him to be released so they could make a run and sign him. But the Colts put that out the window by just trading him for, I think it was a 5th round pick, which Makes the DJ Moore signing or trade so much better because we got a second round pick for him. And by the numbers, DJ Moore has more touchdowns, more yards, and I think even more receptions than Michael Pittman has had in their career. And they've entered in the league at like the same time, so the numbers are pretty well matched up. Besides the fact that Michael Pittman does tend to miss more games than um, miss more games, and then so the Steelers are gonna have two 6'4" receivers. They're gonna have DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman Jr. I don't. I They also have Calvin Austin, which is I think is one of the best. No, not one of the best slots, but he's a slot you could work with on your team. So the two receivers, deep shots. I don't really know if I like it because neither of them really have a route tree. Michael Pittman has more of a route tree than DK, but still, you're gonna have to deal with some drops from Michael, which also switches over to DK because DK also has a lot of drops, and sometimes they both just look like they're uninterested while they're on the field. So the Steelers, especially if they bring back Aaron Rodgers, this could be one of the most depressed teams of all time because everyone on that team just looks so sad all the time. I don't know what's going on in Pittsburgh, but with Aaron Rodgers, with Mike McCarthy, you got the band back together, quarterback, and then you got two big receivers, which could be good or could I don't know. I just lean towards it not working out for them. I don't know if DK is going to get traded too because I feel like paying two wide receivers that type of big money right when you're not even going to have a quarterback in 2 years. So who's going to be throwing them the ball? And why not just wait with that money and use it on a tight end or a wide receiver when you draft a quarterback? Because like what is that gonna do for the team when they just have two receivers and a rookie quarterback that is not able to get the ball to them because they also need an offensive line too. Like they're just neglecting these positions, hoping for a 61 to 60 matchup every week where they get the win. My favorite player in the NFL, or linebacker at least, is Demario Davis. He just reminds me of himself. He reminds me of myself when I played football. He's not the most athletic guy, but I'm not trying to brag, but I'm pretty athletic. But Demario Davis is a bigger set linebacker, and he just hits, fills his hole hard, knows where to drop, when to drop. He's a captain of the defense, has been for the last like 13 seasons. So Demario Davis, I can't speak highly enough of him. When I used to play Madden all the time, I would always draft him in like the later rounds because no one would draft him and he would just be sitting there. I'm like, dude, this is one of the best linebackers of the league and I can get him for this value. And he just still plays like he used to do when he was younger. Like his game has gone nowhere. It's maybe even gotten better since he's been on the Jets last time. So it's funny that he left the Jets and now he's going back, just like another free agent I'm going to mention in a little bit. But Demario Davis is a good fit. They lost Quincy Williams in free agency, so they bring in another linebacker that's probably even better than Quincy Williams, just older. But I like this signing for the Jets. They're doing things with their money that make sense. They signed Deshaun Wright too. They traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick, and they just doing things that make sense. Because if you don't remember, they had 0 interceptions last year. That's right, 0 interceptions. Do you know how hard it is to not get a single interception? Think of all the weird plays you see in the NFL. You see balls get knocked up in the air. You see helmets getting hit. QB's arms going forward and being a pass backwards. And teams picking it up and running it back for touchdowns. But the Jets just didn't get any of this luck last year. I don't know if there's like a curse. Well, I mean, technically there is a curse because if you know the MetLife stuff, people do think the MetLife Stadium's cursed. So there is that. So maybe MetLife is a reason for no picks. Maybe the turf monster, Timmy Turf, trips them up and prevents any of this from happening. Moving on to our Bears. I already talked about Bradbury, but we got another guy. Kobe Bryant is a Chicago Bear. R.I.P. Kobe, but not that Kobe. He did not resurrect and switch sports. We have Kobe Bryant. If you remember him, he used to play at the University of Cincinnati with Sauce Gardner, Desmond Ridder, and Alec Pierce. Funny enough that I mentioned him earlier. But yeah, so we got Kobe Bryant. We obviously needed a safety after we lost Kevin Byard, who's now with the Patriots, and Jaquan Brisker, who is still a pending free agent, which is making me nervous by the day because the safety market is not that high right now. The safety market's not that high right now, and hasn't been signed. So I don't know if he's doing this because he wants to get paid down the road, and he felt like he was a better fit with Kevin Byard, and now with Kobe Bryant on the team. Maybe he feels like his role is going to be increased and he's going to have to do more coverage than of run support, which he's more comfortable at in the run support in the box. So maybe he sees the personnel that we have around him and he just doesn't think it fits his playing style, which is a fair gripe. I wouldn't want to play a position if the guy next to me wasn't doing the things that I had expectations to be done, and Kevin Byard made up a lot for that because he was able to just come out of nowhere and track the ball like 50 yards down the field. So it's gonna be a good signing for the Bears. It was good money too, a 3-year deal. I think it was like $24 million, so it's like an $8 million a year contract. I'll take that any day of the week. Whenever I see a contract multiple years for a good player that's under $10 million, I get very excited for that right away because they're smart signings. Like Devin Bush is another guy we signed in free agency to a 3-year, $30 million deal. Cheap contracts and for good players. Like, let's say it doesn't work out. He's 5'11", probably like 236. If it doesn't work out, we can cut him, save money, because as we have seen throughout this whole season, the salary cap just isn't real. It does not exist. People could just find money, get money out of contracts, and players, I don't know if they end up getting paid or not. I am very generally confused on how it works, but Devin Bush was ranked 4th among middle linebackers last year in PFF, Pro Football Focus's stats thing, kind of like Ken Palm. He's a great player, and he's good in coverage, which was something we lacked at the linebacker position yesterday. So we got the guy that we needed at the linebacker position. He could drop into coverage. He can do pretty much anything you ask him to do. So I think this is a very good defensive piece for us. And sorry, I just got breaking news that Kyler Murray signed with the Vikings. So we have a new quarterback in the division. Chicago Bears fans. Kyler Murray is now going to the Minnesota Vikings, where people have called Kevin O'Connell the savior of quarterbacks. Let's see if he can do it with Kyler Murray, someone who is a former number 1 overall pick, a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. But in the NFL, he hasn't really been able to put together multiple seasons of playoff-worthy football. So I think it's a okay signing for the Vikings. It's a 1-year deal. But what makes him different than a Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones? What if he absolutely goes out there and balls, puts up MVP numbers, and now you're going to be tasked with another situation? Are we going to pay Kyler Murray, or are we going to keep rolling with J.J. McCarthy or draft a different quarterback? These are questions that are actually going to be asked because there's a potential where Kyler Murray has a above average season, better than anything J.J. McCarthy could have done last year, and he's just kicked to the curb and does not have a job with the Vikings. Because what if the GMs are selfish? But I highly doubt this because they fired their old GM recently. So I think Kevin O'Connell and whoever else is in the building is on board with them in terms of like what they're going to do, what their plan is going forward at the quarterback position. Biggest signing, I talked about it last week that I really wanted, but I mean, I really wanted him since he was coming out of college at Iowa, and that's Tyler Linderbaum. He is a beast of a center. He will get dirty. He'll talk crap to you, push you down, not help you up. Great center, knows everything about the defense. Would have been nice to have him on the Bears, but the amount of money he got, it's a lot of money. He got a 3-year, $80 million contract. Yeah, 3 years for $81 million. That's an insane amount of money for a center in the NFL. That's why it makes me feel better. The Bears traded a 5th-round pick for like a guy that's making $4 million, which is a much better value because that position isn't going to give you points. You could work around it. I mean, if the interior's pop, do the inside zone still work because you can seal off the inside nose guard and you can run these plays. Another one of my favorite players that previously, like DeMario Davis, I gave him the shout out, but another great player for me, not just because I had him on my fantasy team last year and he carried me on the second half of the season and ultimately got me into the playoffs. No. But Travis Etienne is signed with the Saints, which is a good signing for the Saints because they got Tyler Shuck, who's a good young quarterback. Well, I don't even know if you can call him young because he got drafted at age 24, so he's probably like 25, turning 26 soon. But they have Tyler Shuck, and Travis Etienne is a good running back who had a lot of the ball carries in Jacksonville over his career, but like last year with that one running back, and then the previous year with Tank Bigsby, he was not getting he should have been getting the ball like 80% of the time. He was getting it like 65% of the time. And he needed his own ball because without that, what good of a player is he going to be? Because I think he's more of a receiving back than a running back. Well, not actually, no, because his vision's so good. He's an all-you-could-do back. But the fact that the Jaguars didn't want to bring him back, and I don't even know if the Jaguars currently have a run game, like coach, coordinator, or anything. I think he's still just out there. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what they're gonna do with this one. No, I do know what they're gonna do, but they're gonna have to cut Travis Etienne because without Travis Etienne, no, they're gonna have to cut Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is gonna be cut after a long time in New Orleans. Last year he just was phased out. People forgot he existed, I think. So he is gonna be gone. And then Travis Etienne is a younger version of him, more dynamic, not as powerful, just more agile, I would say. So there he is going there. And then Mike Evans is going in division to the Buccaneers. Or not the Buccaneers, to the 49ers. Good trade for him, but if you are familiar with the 49ers, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, Christian McCaffrey, those are the main boys on their team. You can even throw Brock Purdy in there, Mac Jones. I just said Mac Jones just because he was like the party animal on the vacation that they're all at. But there's like a transformer looking thing across from where they practice and where they play their games, and has been linked to causing injuries to players. I know that sounds like a conspiracy theorist, but there is reports that this is happening. And with Mike Evans going there, I saw a meme the other day, if you're familiar with that one guy who's out with his family eating, and they have like the bone that's given to them by the chef, and the meat just falls off the bone in like a second. That's the memes I saw of Mike Evans playing next to that substation. That's the name of it. So it would be pretty funny if everybody on the team just has a Michael Evans and just gets hurt after every play. But besides like the clowning part of it, I think this is a good signing for them. Who knows where Brandon Ayuk is? Last time we saw him, he was posted videos of melting ice cream on his hand. So there's that nutball. Jawan Jennings, who people in the NFL hate. People say they are happy he got hit in the nuts when he did that one time. So the 49ers have been on the verge of winning the Super Bowl. They just never been able to get over the hump. Now with Mike Evans, who's a significant upgrade at any wide receiver positions, is a great signing for them. Good job, John Lynch. Good job, Kyle Shanahan. But with this addition of Mike Evans, there's no excuses for the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan now. Kyle Shanahan has been in some of the biggest positions in all of sports and has unfortunately come out on the losing end of these. He was the offensive coordinator during the 28-3 Super Bowl against the Patriots, where the Falcons fumbled the bag and they lost. And he also has been with the 49ers for 8 years now, and they've gotten in the Super Bowl a couple times, but have never been able to get over the hump. And I feel like it stands in the way of Mike. It stands in the way of them. Before I move on to the next piece of my next sport that I'm going to be talking about, I wanted to just touch on Daniel Jones' contract for a second. Daniel Jones is single-handedly screwing over every GM in the NFL. This guy gave Indiana Jones, Daniel Jones, a 2-year deal worth $45 million. Are you kidding me? Daniel Jones, yes, that's the guy who fell down an open field that one time when he was running for a touchdown on Monday Night Football. Yes, the guy who got passed along got moved on from Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy over him. We're talking about Daniel Jones, one of the biggest clowns in the NFL. We've talks about him potentially being benched. He has been benched before. People talking about potentially him being out of the NFL, but no, now he's getting a $45 million contract for 8 good games that he played. In the schedule in these 8 games was not crazy. His stats weren't crazy. Alex Pierce was putting the team on his back. And now, it's just Daniel Jones did not deserve this. Because now he's going to be labeled a overrated bum, overrated bust every time he plays the game of football. Yes, I don't know. And it's like, if he had 2 good years, like if he was drafted and he took 1 year to get good, and then the 2 years before the contract negotiations could be made, if they signed him, I would be okay, that's fine. But he had 8 good games, if that. I'll have to go back to the stats and break it down, but there's potential that this was not going to help the Colts in the long term, especially a team that has been so desperate for quarterbacks. They've gone through Matt Ryan's, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz's, you name it. Anthony Richardson was a 4th-round pick who's now not even not even talked about at all. It's just they are so desperate to find a quarterback to stay with the team that they gave a 2-year deal to a guy. And 2 years deal is fine, short term. Those are long years, especially when you got other people in their prime of their careers on the offensive side of the ball and on the defensive side of the ball. It's just sometimes GMs, man, just don't make any sense. And if you do want to go with a quarterback next year, you probably want to start him right away. But now he's going to have to learn from Daniel Jones. It's Daniel Jones that knows he's going to get benched, and why would he even feel like obligated to give any favors to any backups behind him? That is all for the football portion of this the show today. We're just going over some free agency stuff. The Bears signings and Max Crosby were the 2 biggest news items from that piece. But now we got to dive into the NBA, another sport that I am very fond of. Haven't been following it as crazy as I have in the past because the Bulls have just been making me so mad. More on that later, but yeah, the NBA is going to be approaching the stretch run before we get into the playoffs. A lot of teams are knowing their positions. A lot of teams know they're not going to be in the playoffs and are looking for their draft picks already. I wish that was the Bulls, but they somehow win. But we saw something crazy the other night. USA was done playing against Italy. USA was done playing against Italy. No sports were really on. People were bored at their homes. And all of a sudden, word started trickling around everywhere on social media. First, it started in my text messages with my friends. Then Twitter started talking about it. People were predicting what was going to end of this game. But yeah, people were just starting to figure out what was going on. Like I said, word was trickling around that something was happening in the NBA that night, but no one knew exactly what or who it was happening to. If I gave you 20 guesses right now, right at this very second, there's probably a 3% chance that you'll be able to find out the player who scored 83 points. I'm going to give you that 5 seconds starting now. I'm going to fill out the time space in between so it's not awkward silence. Okay, guys, so if you are here tuning in right now, the question was, who was a player that scored 83 points? My projection is no one will be able to guess it in 20 times, but If you watch basketball, you probably already know about it, but here it goes. The player who scored 83 points is Cameron Payne. JK, Cameron Payne did not score 83 points. Are you kidding me? Maybe in like a blind league, but no, not in the NBA. But it was Bam Adebayo. Yes, Bam Adebayo scored 83 points. People were questioning this because 40 free throw attempts is insane, but he got fouled. Like, look at the clips from it. There was like 4 clips that I saw in like 2 seconds of scrolling where he was just getting attacked. He had people draped over him on his one shoulder, the other shoulder. They're grabbing down by like his midsection. He was going through it. So these fouls had to be called. And he also went 7 of 12 from 3. He's a center shooting 7 of 12 from 3. What even gave him, like, how did he wake up this day and was like, okay, I'm going to drop 83? I wonder, it had to have crossed his mind because how did he shoot 12 shots? Like, that was before he was even looking to pass and break the record. He was still below the 83, and he was just tracking up threes, making them. This man was in his bag. And it shows that 100 is possibly able to be reached. People thought the Wilt Chamberlain 100 was the craziest stat of all time, but looking at it now, 83 points. He was 17 points away. That's a couple threes. What if he went 12 of 12 from 3? He would have been right on it. And he missed a lot of time in the second quarter because they took him out at the start of it. So he was just, people were trying to do everything they could to take away this milestone, but Bam said, screw you, I'm doing this, and he did it. He was only Wilt, Bam, and then Kobe. And you know what's funny? Even funnier, his girlfriend is Asia Wilson, and she's a WNBA player, and she was at the game, and he, after the game, they did an interview together because she currently has the most points in WNBA history, and he's second in the NBA in most points ever. So, like, what a couple. So, if you keep looking at these projections, their kids are going to be averaging at least 60 points a game, like, nightly, and I think they have multiple kids, so they're just gonna be insanely good. Like, I don't know. Bam and Asia, that was a cool interview. Seeing both of them on the after the game on the podium together talking. I mean, I want to know how to react after I just scored 83 points. I would think I was literally dreaming, because it's Bam Adebayo. He's known for his defense, his like inside rim protection, and dunking. I would never have guessed 83, not even 50. Shoot, not even 40, like 30 is even pushing it for him to score 80 points. So yeah, congratulations to Bam, but he did overshadow some other big dogs that we got in the NBA. One of them I did make the joke on earlier and said Cameron Payne scored 83. He was not that close to 83, but he did score 32 points, which was the most in his game that night. And he said after the game he was not going to let Bam destroy his night. So he was looking across the league on the scoreboards at the game, and he saw Bam Adebayo 83 points and then his 32, and he's like, shoot, I thought I was going to be a talk of the night, but no, he wasn't. And you could even say that for Modest Buzelis from the Bulls. A good player, but I'm not watching the Bulls right now, so I can't really inform you on that. But I think he's good enough to be a 2 or 3 on a contending team. Other people think different, but it was games like yesterday that makes me think that he has scored 43 points, not high shooting numbers either. Like, he was getting to his spots and knocking things down. So it's just, if we could add him with another player, a good player. I know Colin Sexton's been playing well, but I'm talking about a younger player because we were told that Rob Dillingham was going to be his partner in crime, but Rob Dillingham is terrible. Colin Sexton has been playing good, averaging like 20 plus over the last 6 games, but they're about to get him the heck out of there. So we're just going to be back to base one with Modest Buzelis by himself fully this year, not halfway mark. And we're going to see what he could do. Scoring 40 in the NBA is a great start because that's just going to give him the confidence he needs. The number one thing is confidence for him, I think. It kind of gives the same vibe as Pat Williams, but sometimes I don't think they're aggressive enough. And when they get aggressive and they fail, they just think they shouldn't be doing it again. But you just have to keep attacking and going after it and trying to get what you need to be done. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Around the Leagues with Brady B. I'm your host, Brady Bauer. We talked a lot about NFL free agency. Next week, we won't be talking too much about the NFL because free agency will be closed, but we will be talking about... Oh, wait. Before we end, okay, I'm going to delete that outro, but next sport we have to talk about is the World Baseball Classic. I wasn't going to get into the World Baseball Classic until the USA was either in the finals or we lost. And we lost the other day. So I had to defend the team that I love so much. So I did that. I started watching the games. I started praying for them. But they lost to Italy, the Italians, 8-5. It was 8-0. But then, Pete Crow Armstrong decided to come to alive. The only player on Team USA to do anything that game. Pete Crow hit 1 3-run homer. Then his next at bat, he hit another homer. So he was locked. That's a good sign for Cubs fans, but I don't love seeing Team USA lose like how we lost to Italy. So the next day, it all came down to this. If Italy beat Mexico, then Italy and USA would advance. If Mexico beat Italy by if Mexico beat Italy by 5 or more runs, the USA would advance. And then if it was 4 runs or less between the two of them and Mexico won, then Mexico would have the tiebreaker. So I don't like that tiebreaker. Just flip a coin like they do in Friday Night Lights. I think that would make it much easier for everybody else. But now USA, they did get lucky, and Italy smacked down Mexico last night to give us the berth to the quarterfinals, where we will face on Canada. Yes, Canada again. I hope we beat them. We just got to keep crossing it off the list. We have hockey down. We have baseball. And then we also will face some in basketball and what's the other sport in the Olympics? Yeah, so we're going to keep killing you, Canada. Get ready. We're coming for you. That will be Friday night, which is a game between Canada and USA. And then I believe the semifinal, which I hope wasn't the thing that you just did with Claire and Frank. Sorry, that was a House of Cards reference. I don't know what the heck that was, but... The World Baseball Classic, we'll see what happens there. We have a lot of moving parts for it. I mean, the USA should win against Canada. So if we win against Canada, we would beat them in hockey, baseball, and then we have the opportunity to beat them in soccer at the World Cup and then NBA or the Olympics in the next time we face them. So then if we do that, that would honestly be world domination. So not actually. Okay, that was kind of crazy. No, that's not true. That is not true. We would just be a good sports country, and that's it. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Around the Leagues with Brady B. I've been your host, Brady Bauer. Next week, we're going to get into no more free agency because it's going to be pretty much wrapped up. We'll talk about, did Max Crosby ever get traded? Who scored 89 points? Who scored 80 points in the NBA this week, if that happens again? And then MLB season will be here. I'll give you my thoughts about the Cubs and what games I'm going to be going to for the Cubs season this year. Because, when the weather gets nice, there's nothing like Wrigley Field baseball in the late spring and summer. And even late summer. And even the fall if we make the playoffs again. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.